Hong Kong's worst fire in more than half a century. Shocked residents and relatives attempt to process their sense of grief and loss.
We bought a unit more than 20 years ago. All our belongings were in this apartment, and now that it is all burnt like this, what's left? There's nothing left. What are we supposed to do?
Many residents give harrowing insights into the difficulties faced by those who tried to escape. Some lost their lives.
When the fire first started, I told my wife to leave, so she left the flat, but the stairways were all filled with smoke and it was dark and she couldn't see. She had no choice but to go back to the flat.
The community is rallying around the survivors. This is an area where people have been bringing donations for those affected by the disaster, mainly clothing including nappies and shoes, in an outpouring of sympathy and support. The conditions for firefighters attempting to search the complex remain challenging and hazardous.
Layout is very complex because the scaffolding is collapsed. And our firefighter need to converse the high temperature to proceed to the fire ground one layer by one layer. It is very difficult for us.
The cause of this disaster will be investigated in the coming days. But for the survivors, recovering from the emotional cost will take much longer. Laura Westbrook, Al Jazeera, Hong Kong.
And dramatic witness video has emerged, showing the first moments of the fire just as it started and how quickly it spread. Take a look at this. You see how quickly there the fire spread up the building. Joining us from Tai Po in Hong Kong is Terry Wong. Terry, you're the manager of local disaster relief at Hong Kong Red Cross. I understand your team is helping survivors of the fire. What can you tell us?
Yes, right now it is a very big fire incident in Hong Kong, and right now I'm in the transitional shelters of the survivors, and this transitional building just behind me is now hosting around 10% of the affected populations in this very big fire incidents. So our Hong Kong Red Cross is now focusing to provide the support to the people in the transitional shelters, the temporary shelters, and also taking care of those families who lost their loved ones.
Terry, I understand that there are still many people, maybe hundreds of people, who are still unaccounted for at this point. What information, if any, do you have on that and rescue efforts for them?
Yes, everyone in Hong Kong worrying about the situation inside the building. Right now, we're still waiting for more information from the firefighters for the situations of those missing. And we anticipate we will receive more information from the firefighters, but now we are still worrying. So we will take care of those families who are looking for the news of their loved ones, those who have already lost their loved ones, and also the people displaced right now.
Okay, we hope for the best for all those people who are believed to still be trapped in the buildings, at least one of the buildings still on fire or the fire still burning. There are a couple of the buildings fire under control, but that isn't the case everywhere. What are you hearing from the survivors who actually got out on time, but some of them were in the building when it caught fire?
Yeah, we hear from the survivors that they feel very mixed feeling. They feel happy that they can survive with their family members. They are now trying to settle down in the transitional shelters. However, they also feel very overwhelmed because they see the whole estate, the 7 buildings, they were almost totally destroyed by this fire. And they know the casualty figures is growing up. and it is not a good feeling to most of us.
Of course. And I know it's early days for this question, but what are going to be the next steps for people that you're currently helping with shelter? Because those buildings, there's no chance they're going back to these buildings anytime soon.
Yes, indeed. And it involved a huge number of the populations. Around 1,900 households were affected in these moments. So the last night, they were struggling to arrange the temporary shelters to host these big amounts of people. And our team in Hong Kong Red Cross, we provide the relief items, the first aid services, and also the psychosocial support in the displaced temporary shelters in the first few hours of the fire and provide it overnight until now.
And look, I wonder, you may not have heard something about this, given that these people's immediate concern is to have a roof over their head. And for some of them, for many of them, unfortunately, is to get the information on their missing family members. But I wonder if anybody told you or your team members about any concerns they might have had regarding fire hazards in their building.
I hear that their primary concern would be the news of their missing family members. So a lot of people were staying in the temporary shelter or some centers that they can receive the latest update from the police, from the firefighters, to check any good news from their family members. I think it is the biggest concern for those families. They still know their loved ones. And on the other hand, I think the people were struggling to settle down because they see that it's a very low possibility they can return to their original homes in short period of time. So they were struggling to find appropriate places to survive for the coming months.
Terry Wong, you're joining us from Hong Kong, specifically in Tai Po, near the area where the fire occurred, and you're helping families who are survivors of this blaze. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.